Morning there, Vigil Inspector. What do you got down there, bud?
Well, actually, that's the topic of this video today. This is my new Mossberg 500. Not really new to me. Anybody who watches the channel knows that I like to recondition firearms, and I basically picked up this old beater Mossberg 500 for like $190, right in the height of this crisis that we got going on with firearms, and I basically redid the whole thing. It was just an old beat to crap. It looked like it'd been drugged behind a truck. I mean, it was all scratched up. Finish was terrible. Stocks were cracked. All the finish was off the stocks. I basically salvaged the receiver, the barrel, and the tube. Sanded them down, got a nice Duracoat finish on it, and basically added synthetics to it and a few accessories. It wears speed feed stocks. I do have a PGO, a pistol grip only stock for indoor applications for this particular weapon system. But for most purposes, I like to have a nice Monte Carlo stock on it. The reason I decided to go with the Mossberg 500 platform over the Remington 870 is because of the safety placement. You can see that the safety on the Mossberg 500 is on the top of the receiver there. It's a push button, or it's a push forward safety that can be actuated with a thumb while you're in the firing position. This is a Remington 870 Super Magnum, and you can see that it has a push button actuation safety here. I prefer, for a Monte Carlo styled stocked shotgun, to have that thumb safety up top as opposed to the push button. This push button safety I find much better for pistol gripped applications. If you got a PGO or a pistol gripped combined with a traditional stock, it's better, in my humble opinion, if you have a push button safety. It's very hard to actuate this thumb safety from a stock that has a pistol grip combined with the Monte Carlo. So the other thing that I did to it, you'll notice that it's significantly chopped down. I literally cut it off using a chop saw with a metal cutting blade. Mr. Tactical Bacon and I had a good time doing that on this particular firearm, but it sports a 20-inch barrel. Its legal length is 18.5. It does use the standard vent rib barrel, and the reason I was okay with doing that is this particular shotgun's barrel came with no choke tube. If I examine this Remington 870, you can see that it has a removable choke tube in the front here that siphons your shot as it travels out of the barrel. This particular barrel didn't have one, so I had no problem chopping it off and just shortening it up a little bit. Both are viable options, but we're going to go ahead and get some shooting done. We're going to go ahead and get everybody's opinion of this firearm just by empirical data. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and shoot. I'm going to shoot the Remington 870 first, just to get an idea of the patterning, how bad the patterning is on this 20-inch barrel versus this, what is this, 26, 28?
26.
26.
26 smoothbore.
Is this weapon hot?
Yes. Safety is off. There's on.
Let's go ahead and get a little bit more so we can see the spread of the shot on the water. Okay. And we don't need that next one. We'll shoot it anyway. Wow, you loaded it up, man. We don't need...
I don't fuck around.
We don't need quite that many. Okay, the Mossberg, please. You notice that this wears a Tac Star, just a cheapy side saddle. It's a 6-shot, and the stock houses 4 total, 2 on this side, 2 on this side. There's an internal magazine in here. The tube is a 5-shot tube and 1 in the pipe, so it's a total of 6 shots. That's one of the arguments I do have about the Mossberg 500 platform, is that unless you get a specialized barrel that has an extended index point up here, you cannot put an extended tube on the firearm. Whereas the 870, the interface is a little bit different. it literally has a ring here that secures the, go ahead and drop the pump. There's a ring here that secures the barrel to the tube. So it's very easy to thread out this tube and put a longer one on there and just replace the end cap. And you're fully functional with more rounds. This one, you're limited. So we'll do it closer. And then we'll do the same long shot over there with the shot spread out over the pond. So you can see there's considerable more spray, which is what we expect from a shorter barrel. I really do. So
Huh?
I hope you fall down today.
I'm not gonna fall down today. Unless it's by design.
All right, so there are a total of 5 targets down there. I've got 6 in the gun. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate for anybody who is wondering the acquisition speed of a weapon like this, because a lot of people ask, well, you know, you have to pump the gun each time. You know, how fast can you get rounds out if you need to? So a lot of the misconception is that you have to buy an auto shotgun to be able to really put, you know, lead down range, and I don't subscribe to that philosophy at all. So I think I'll just demonstrate real quick how fast I can hit each of those targets with a pump shotgun. You ready? Press check. We're live. Go ahead and give me a mark.
Shooter ready?
Yep.
Do it.
And one more. So really, as soon as the gun returns to equilibrium, as soon as the gun comes back down from its blast, I've already jacked the next shell in. All right. Now that's a little practice you might have to get used to, but really, there's no need, in my humble opinion, for an automatic shotgun. In fact, I would say that when you're loading plastic cases like this, that it's best to have a manual action, so that you're not inhibited by jams and things of that nature. It's a lot harder to jam a pump action shotgun when you're ramming it forward with your arm power rather than bleeding off gas or blowback inertia off of a firing cycle.
They can malfunction.
They
That's
can
typically
malfunction.
user error, short stroking, things like that.
Oh yeah, certainly, and that's a training aspect. You know, that's something that you have to get used to, clearing malfunctions even with your pump action. You can stage them with spent shells. It's not that hard, but your incidence of malfunction on a pump action shotgun, in my humble opinion, is going to be much lower
Than a semi-auto.
than a semi-auto. Who's next?
I'll shoot it.
Okay.
I'm gonna film.
Yeah.
I still think the Benelli has the best feeding system.
It has a rotating bolt, and typically those are, you know, better.
That's probably it, dude. I think that's it.
Did you put 5 in?
Yeah, I
The
think
tube?
there's 4 in the tube, 1 in. Is there
No,
5
there's
in the tube?
5 in the tube.
Oh, my bad. Alright.
Okay, Wombat, go ahead and what do you want to do? You want to go ahead and just discharge it and see how it stacks up against your Remington 870?
Yeah, I'm gonna take one shot and maybe compare the trigger a little bit. I can tell you right now that it's a little bit more wobbly.
Yeah, they are a little bit looser.
Well, you put it together.
Well, I didn't really change that. I did salvage the pump.
But I can tell right now it does feel, I mean, the weapon itself, the stock and everything feels solid, but the action is a little flimsy.
And I think that it's one of the major arguments that people do make against make for the Remington 870 versus the Mossberg 500 is the Mossberg 500 pump is generally more wobbly. But the one thing I will draw attention to is you still have dual action bars. So you have an action bar there on this side and this side, and that's what's really important in a shotgun. You don't want a single action bar, and like some old Winchesters have a single action bar, and that can be, if that gets bent, you know, you think of it like this: you're putting all this force backwards on one part as opposed to distributing it on 2. Remington 870s typically have dual action bars as well. Benelli's dual action bars. Any of your modern shotguns are going to have dual action bars.
I do like the feeding a little bit better. I think it feeds smoother. With the 870, you have like no clearance between the edge of the feed ramp and the tube This does give you a little bit more space. You're a lot less likely to get caught up inside there. That's my biggest complaint about the 870 is that super long feed ramp.
And one of the things that we will, when we move to loading from like a side saddle or just loading out of a pouch or something like that, you will see that the Remington 870 does have a feed lip here that you have. It's a tab you have to push through to load those shells. If you want to load this shell, you pull it out, you drop it in, you ram it home, as opposed to the Remington 870, you have to index it past that tab and then shove it up in.
And that tab will often, if you don't get your finger out right away, will catch the top of your thumb too, which is not particularly comfortable.
Yeah, and you know, to add to that, not only is it not comfortable, but if you're wearing gloves, like we typically do,
you can get stuck.
You can get stuck. You can get locked up in there. So
yeah, I'm just gonna take a shot with it and kind of get a feel for the trigger and stuff, and then I'll just get an impression of how fast the acquisition is on it. So we're gonna safety off. Should be it.
nope, you failed.
No, it's not.
Somebody can't. Okay, so talk about the acquisition. Talk about basically how the gun recoils and returns. Yeah, you totally lost your ear pro. No, it's still in your ear.
Yeah, we'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Anyways, there's a wombat misfortune. What I'll say is the trigger is definitely a lot heavier than the 870. And since I recently acquired a Benelli Supernova with a pistol grip, I definitely like the feel of a pistol grip more than the Monte Carlo stock. So that does slow down my acquisition a little bit. I kind of feel like with the pistol grip, I'm able to support the weapon a little bit better. When I'm changing targets here, I feel like I'm fully dependent on the pad against my shoulder, and it does seem like it slides around a lot more than with the pistol grip. I just think you have a better angle to pull it and steady it back against your shoulder.
And I think that's a legitimate concern, especially since we do a lot of AR work. You know, we do a lot of tactical carbine work. So the battery of arms on the guns with the pistol grips is very similar to that of the AR-15. So
yeah, this is my first time firing this weapon.
Yeah, so you know, transitioning from predominantly pistol gripped long guns to Monte Carlo is something that, you know, people should take it into account when they're talking about integrating a shotgun into their system. I don't really care, but that's
So, yeah, I mean, definitely the value that you can get out of this weapon, especially if you modify it. You know, you can pick up an old used one that's already broken and it's really smooth. I think the action is, I would say that pulling it back is pretty similar to the Remington 870. It's nowhere near as smooth as the Benelli, but pushing it forward back into battery is, there's a little bit more resistance here than I found on the 870 and on the Benelli.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my first impressions of it.
I do like it's got the shorter barrels. I feel like you get a little bit more control on it just because it's not as long, a little bit less weight.
That is one thing I forgot to mention about it. It is a very light shotgun.
Yeah, it's very light.
Especially with the synthetic furniture on it.
Yeah. So he did good work for beat the crap shotgun he picked up.
Especially put together by that.
The Ogre Brothers.
No, well, yeah, the other Ogre brother did have a role. He did play a role, but it was mostly this kind of role where he goes, shotgun,
Must pound on ground.
chop saw,
Cro-Magnon used tool.
barrel shorter. Yes, it is good.
Club.
That's pretty much how it happened.
He behaves that way in general, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and let's go back to the water, and maybe we can have a little bit of fun over there. Just try and I have a few slugs I'd like to try out through it, see how those go. Unfortunately, because all you people are assholes and you bought all the buckshot at Walmart, we don't have any buckshot to show you today.
Nope.
So what we're going to do real quick is an accuracy and recoil comparison. Everybody here has fired a shotgun with slugs in it before, and I basically want an impression of how the shorter barrel and the whole system as a whole with the speed feed rubber buttstock. Basically how it manages the recoil and also the accuracy at which you can use the pin sights. I know that you, Wombat, can use pin sights pretty well, considering you dropped a 8-point at like 100, 120, 30 yards, something like that.
131.
Yeah, I think that's what we lased it at. But we're going to be using Remington 3-inch 1-ounce slugs. Excuse me, Federal
3-inch.
3-inch 1-ounce slugs.
Hit.
All right, CS.
I haven't shot a slug in a long time.
Yeah, dude, that thing flew out of your hands almost.
It's a little muddy.
Yeah, like that.
Like a boss.
Yeah, it fucking
Boss.
kicks hard, dude. I think that's probably,
My foot totally slid back in that mud.
you know, I think because the weapon's so light,
At least I held on to the weapon.
right, unlike you, the thing like pretty much launched you, dude. I'm gonna definitely have to replay that clip of him in the corner for the rest of the video of him go,
I want that to be like my screensaver or something.
some gif of CS almost dropping my shotgun because the recoil is too great.
In this lovely
Yeah,
primordial soup.
yes. But no, I think, honestly, in my humble opinion, I feel like that kicked more than most shotguns that I've fired
it's
before.
pretty heavy.
It's a very light shotgun.
I think I did have it a little high up on my shoulder too. I think this pad, since it's so hard, yeah, that's what she said, is a lot more intense on your shoulder than something that's really nice soft foam like what is on the 870 we have in the
Right.
Supernova.
Right, for sure. And man, I just tell you what, I was very
Add up,
surprised by those 3-inch shells. But you know, they're still manageable. They're still doable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's a training issue. You have to, you know, if you're going to shoot 3-inch shells out of your gun like that, you need to make sure that you know what you're doing,
yeah.
as CS
Yeah,
demonstrated.
it's only been like 10 years since I shot slugs.
And none of us are all too familiar with kind of the intricacies of this particular weapon.
Right. That with the 12 gauge a moment ago, you can see some major impacts where they hit here towards the center, and didn't do a very good job because it's a glancing shot. But if you look at this solid impact here from this 12 gauge shell, if I can use a 9mm round as a reference point on this, on that impact there, I mean, it's quite massive. All right, you can see that this is 1/4-inch steel. It's pretty thick, and then you can also see the kind of scuffs in the paint here that the 9mm and 40 cal rounds, 9mm 40 cal, leave in the steel versus the 12 gauge 3-inch 1-ounce slugs.
What I found very interesting with this too is when you have this curvature on the steel, you would think it would be able to deflect, and we can see that's readily apparent here. But even with that curvature that you would think with the slug would deflect it, we still have a massive dent. I mean, I can stick my finger in there.
Well, you can see not only do you have that massive dent, but you've got all this spray down here from that. So it did blow apart the slug.
Yes.
But it blew it blew it apart this direction and up here as well. You can see that you back off, you can see that it just sprayed hot lead all over this.
Yeah, that's all from one shot.
And what I would also note real quick for everybody watching is you can see where this was sitting before we started shooting and where it is after a couple impacts. And let me tell you that I'm a pretty big guy. I could bench press 325 pounds, which isn't a massive amount, but
It's not an accurate amount for what you can bench press either.
I just did it the other day, you midget. But that's pretty heavy. So, just to say that it was moved is quite a thing. To show that it was moved to about wherever it was. But we also came over here, and it was lying down like this.
And it was staked down.
And I've considerably pounded in that stake. It almost moved that entire stake.
The other stake actually dissolved, I think, during the course of fire.
What the heck happened with that?
Yeah, I think it evaporated.
Let's
Yeah, one of the things that is really just kind of getting me with this weapon, since I'm used to weapons like the Benelli Supernova and Remington 870 that have the slide release located here, I just keep reaching around this trigger guard looking for it, when in fact, it's actually on the left side.
Go ahead and reflect the weapon over so everybody can see that.
And it's a much smaller button on the Mossberg 500. But what's a really good technique for activating this is to actually just slide your middle finger over, catch it, and go back. So you can actually still be in the firing position and then decide to rack the weapon.
Whereas, you know, go ahead and float that Benelli into his arms there, CS. Go ahead and swap those out, and go ahead and try to actuate that that slide release from the firing position. So go ahead and hold the gun like you were just shooting it.
Yeah, I have pretty small hands. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
I actually have to creep forward.
Out of the firing position to rack the slide. So that's something to think about right there.
So yeah, you definitely have to get up. I mean, it is a larger button. It's definitely easier, you know, once you get out of firing position to activate it. But I think that gives you a little bit of a better kind of tactical advantage to just be able to stay in the firing position the whole time while you operate it.
Right. All right, cool. Good data. Good data point. Thanks for...
Oh yeah.
I saw him go really, really fast on that load. Part of that is the shell holder, but the other part of it is the breech of the Benelli Supernova is massive. If you go ahead and stack those up against, if you stack the two side by side, you can tell that, I mean, that one's farther away from the camera and you can still see that it's bigger.
Yeah, the physical size of the weapon itself is
trying to
much
square it
larger.
off more, and it's
And
rounded.
trying to hit that versus trying to hit that is considerably different. So that's another aspect that you have to consider when you're talking about shotguns versus, you know, speed loading and things like that. You have to consider your chamber size.
Yeah,
So
something like that does give you a lot more room for error as far as reloading the shells. And something like a pistol grip, just for me, it makes it, I think the leverage is a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Stabilize the weapon and manipulate it rather than holding on to it out that way.
certainly.
Yeah, definitely, you know, a lot of this is personal preference, but try out different things and see what you like.
And I think that that's where we'll leave it.